Hey, thanks for tuning in to Twang and Bang. You might be somebody who just got your first red dot gun sight, and you put the battery in, you turn it on, and you look through it, and you're not seeing much of a red dot. You might see a comma or a comet or a ball of yarn with stuff pulled all over it, or some other distorted mess that's not making you happy. And you're thinking, what a piece of junk. Whether you paid $75 for it or $750 for it, you're not happy and you want to send it back. Well, I got some good news for you and some bad news for you. The good news is your red dot sight is probably 100% fine. The bad news is your eyeball probably isn't. It doesn't matter if you've got perfect vision or not. Many people have what's known as astigmatism that's completely undiagnosed because it only causes issues with certain scenarios, such as a bright light coming into your eye projected from something like the LED emitter and a red dot sight, or a laser and a holographic gun sight. You might be somebody who already knows you have an astigmatism, and you're now learning that that has an impact on what a red dot sight looks like to you. Well, there's a very easy test for you to know whether or not your sight is fine or it's your eyeball that's causing the problem. And there are a few things for you to consider before you ditch red dot sights if you find out after that test that it's you, not the sight. And that's what's coming up next on Twang and Bang. Ordinarily, the cornea has a nice round radius, allowing the light to enter the lens of the eye free from distortion. Because the lens is also normal in this eye, the light is focused very sharply on the retina, resulting in a crisp image to be processed by the brain. With astigmatism, the cornea sticks out a bit like the end of a football instead of being nice and round. This bends and distorts the light before it hits the lens, resulting in light not being properly focused in the retina. You might have a perfect lens in your eye, but if your cornea is goobered, you'll notice that bright lights at night twinkle or even have rays shooting off of them. Turns out the very same thing can happen with certain red dot sights even in the brightness of daytime, and it's very easy to test to see if this is causing any distortion you might experience with your optic. The test is super easy, and to do it, you want to take the sight off of your gun if it's already mounted. This isn't just for safety, this is just to make the test easier. You'll see why in a minute. What you're going to do is you're going to look through and you're going to look at that dot and that distortion. And that distortion is probably going to have a distinct shape to it of some kind, with maybe one part that sticks out more than the other, or in my case, I look at this and I see a comma. Even though I've got astigmatism correction in my glasses, I still get an effect when I look at red dots like this. And that comma, from my perspective, is like this. So you're seeing the exact opposite image of what I see when I look through this. Now, you get an idea of what's the top, right, left, and bottom of that distortion that you see, and all you have to do is rotate the sight. And as you do that, pay attention to the shape of the red dot. And more than likely, what you're going to notice is the shape of that red dot doesn't change. It might twinkle a little bit as you turn it, but that's your eye. That's not the sight that's causing that twinkling. But for me, when I look through this, I see a comma like this, and as I turn it, I still see a comma like this. The comma is still like this. The comma is still like this. If it were the sight, I would see this happening. I would see the comma orientation rotate with the sight. No matter which way I did it, I would see this. But I don't. I see the exact same shape regardless of orientation of the sight. So that means it's my eye and not the sight. And I would bet the farm that the vast majority of you watching this, really mad at the piece of junk that you got, are seeing exactly the same thing. Your optic is fine. It's your eye. And you might not have ever been diagnosed with astigmatism before, and it might not otherwise affect your vision in a practical sense throughout your day. You don't need to go and get glasses for this, although that might be something that could help you if this is a very big deal. If it's a huge distortion and you haven't had your eyes checked, go get them checked to see if they can give you corrective lenses for astigmatism in general. Your view of the rest of the world might be a whole lot sharper as a result. But it might just be a mild thing, and now you know it's the sight now you know that the sight is fine and it's your eye. For me, because it is such a mild effect, the first option that you have is the option that I go with, and that is I just run the sight as is. And I've got a distinct point of aim, even though it's kind of a comma. I just use the comma as my point of aim. And it doesn't impact my use of this gun or anything that I put it on at all, not in the least bit. These are designed to shoot minute of man, not minute of angle. Can people take a red dot sight and not have astigmatism and shoot minute of angle? Sure, but that's not the purpose of this kind of sight. It's supposed to be fast acquisition, get that round on target before that target shoots you back. And at 100 yards, the vitals on a person are 8 MOA or larger. So your 3 MOA dot might have another 2 MOA of fuzz around it, and it's gonna work just fine for that. And that's what most people do. You just kind of use whatever distorted image you have as your point of aim. You zero with that. If the distortion is just too distracting for you, the next step would be to actually go to an eye care professional, get tested, get glasses with astigmatism correction, and for the severest astigmatism, you should get polarized lenses. They could help you actually out in the day, but they will actually help you tremendously on a shooting range, because the polarization helps with the scattered light that's coming into your eye, and it straightens it out before it enters the eye, and so it's going to be straighter when it hits the back of your eye. It's easier for your eye to focus it all in one place. If you still have problems or you want to try something without getting glasses, you can do the peep sight. You flip up the rear backup sight and you look through the small aperture, and that small aperture is going to straighten the light coming out of the sight as well. Works just like a pinhole camera aperture. It actually takes the light that's all diffuse, all scattered, straightens it out, so it has a much easier time focusing in the back of your eye. If that works for you, and again, it's a very easy test, because all you have to do is look through the aperture, look above it, look through, look above it, and if you're like me, you're going to see, even with my astigmatism correction, man, that's glorious. That's fuzzy but workable. Oh, that's a beautiful red dot. I wish I saw that all the time. That might be the solution you go with. If it is, you're probably going to want a standard co-witness mount height. This is lower 1/3, so I lose a lot of the field of view through the optic that I would be able to use if I were going to use the small aperture on my rear sight. And if that doesn't work, or that's not a solution you want to do, you might try a holographic gun sight like this Razor AMG UH1. Some people with astigmatisms that have problems with standard LED emitter type red dot sights have a less of a problem with holographic gun sights. Though for some people it's the opposite. They look at a red dot out of with using a laser emitter like this holographic gun sight, and it's actually a horrific mess compared to a red dot. It's just something for you to try. If that doesn't work, or that's not a solution you want to do, then you can try an optic that has a very bright reticle, one that's illuminated either through fiber optic or through LED, it doesn't matter at that point, but one with an etched reticle. You will not likely have a problem with a gun sight that has an etched reticle, because it's going to be very much like the crosshairs in any standard rifle. And this ACOG in particular, it's an RCO, is for power, wouldn't exactly be a 1-to-1 comparison, but Trijicon does make 1.5 power mini ACOGs that would be a very good solution. And then of course there are other manufacturers that do the same thing. That would be getting out of the kinds of light emission for a reticle that tend to cause problems for astigmatisms, and is something that does not. Though you would be having to sell the red dot that you have that you're not happy with, even though it's perfectly fine. One last thing I meant to mention, your astigmatism is going to be different than anybody else's. It's almost like a fingerprint. The distortion that's in your eye is going to be unique to you. So what you see in a red dot is going to be different than somebody else. So you can't really tell somebody what a red dot's going to look like, one person with astigmatism to another. And don't let somebody else tell you that it's not that bad when they look through your red dot, because they don't know what you see. Only you know what you see. Only you can decide what solution is going to be best for you. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. You can see the links right here. And be sure to click right here to subscribe so you can catch my next videos on bows, guns, and other cool stuff. I really appreciate you watching Twang and Bang, and I hope to see you next time.